Hey, what's up guys? Node Investor here, bringing you a quick update on the markets. Today I want to talk about some buying strategies. A lot of people have been asking me, hey, is it too late to get in? When do I buy? Do I wait for a pullback? And those are very good questions. And so I'm going to share a little bit of my approach, how I look at it, and how I take my buys and some of the strategies you can use for some of that. So quick look at the market. Bitcoin, basically $3,400. Ethereum had a pretty decent move the last couple days, but not quite as some of the other altcoins that are just really strong right now. So you can see Ethereum up a couple percent, but still 270. Very nice move off the lows there. Litecoin, 46 bucks there. NEM 28 cents. Very strong. What else on here? Let me see. Pivx, not too bad at 2 bucks. Zcash, 208. So let's look at the charts. So going to Bitcoin here. So this is the hourly chart of Bitcoin. And so you can see the breakout that we had over the weekend that took us over the 3,000 mark here. And big volume came in. And so this is the first thing I want to look at. So there's two ways to make your buys when something is moving, right? So a lot of people get caught up in the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out, and they're trying to chase these candles. And sometimes you do that, and sometimes you don't want to. So here's the way I approach it. First and foremost, most of you guys that follow me already, you guys know I like bases and I like the chart setups. And so let's zoom out a little bit and look at the 4-hour chart. So on the chart of Bitcoin, you can see that it was setting up real nice here. Very defined level of resistance was forming on the charts. And so that's what I was looking at. And I had actually sent out a tweet of that on Friday, kind of alerting everybody that this is edging up very nicely. You can see on the low end, the highs were getting tighter and tighter and wedging up. The other thing was the moving averages. Notice if I zoom in here, they're just all starting to turn up. The shorter ones are all on top of the next longer one. And that is a very nice setup. That's what you want to see. You see volume really tightening up here, getting low. And sure enough, we have a big breakout followed by volume. So if you don't catch the breakout, or if you don't position yourself before the breakout, what do you do next? And so I approach it a couple of ways. One is if you're in early, and I have my own kind of personal rules, but if it's within 5%, depending on the actual token, right? Some of them move faster than others. If it's within 5 or 10% though, it may still be in buy range, right? So in this case, if you saw it breaking out and you caught it, within 3,100 Bitcoin or something, you might have been able to jump on. Everyone has their own kind of tolerance there at that level, but it just depends, right? So Bitcoin's a bigger one, not going to do a 40% in a day, so the tolerance there might be a little bit tighter versus some of these other ones that have been breaking out, right? Omise Go or one of those, you can catch those within 10% or so. So if you don't catch it, then the next thing I like to do is I like to either wait for a quick pullback, and the area that I look for is this 10 EMA line, and either a pullback to that point or a pullback or a flag pattern out to that point. So in the case of Bitcoin, you can see that's exactly what it did. So if I go to the hourly charts, you can see it had this run up, took it all the way up to 33 and change, 3,300 and change. And then over the last couple days was just kind of tightening out. And then yesterday late, look at where this little consolidation started to form. And this is what I look for, right? So either a pullback down to this point. So this is the next level moving averages. On the shorter time frames, you want to go the next moving average out. On a 4-hour chart, you don't need to wait for it to pull back down to this level, right? So the 10 period, which correlates well, so you can see this pullback. But if you didn't pick it up there, notice this consolidation that happens here, and it's hitting these moving averages really tight. The volume really dries up, and that's the level I look at. So you can either buy it on weakness, and that's on a pullback. So when something's already breaking out and rallying, buying on a pullback, buying on the downtrend is okay, because you have some targets that you're watching in terms of stop loss areas. So in this case, this longer term moving average was holding. You can see it pulled right back to that, bounced off, was really setting up. So anywhere in here would have been a nice secondary opportunity to look at this. And then you can see today has a little move up and is starting to rally again a little bit here. And so the first one I like to look at is a pullback to the moving averages. The next one is a pullback to prior resistance levels. So sticking with Bitcoin, let's go back in time a little bit and find an area where it did that. So I'm going to zoom out to the 4-hour chart again, and let's look at this area here. So off of that really deep low it had at 1800, it rallied, did this little inverted head and shoulder type of pattern with the resistance level around $2,400 or so, and then had a little handle pullback and then it just popped up, right? So if you didn't get it then, you know, you start looking at, okay, where can I buy? Now here, if you would have bought at the moving average, that would have worked out for a little bit, but then it failed here. But look at where it pulled back to. It pulled back right to the resistance level. Now, I understand there was a lot of news, there was a lot of uncertainty. This was pre-fork, this was BCash coming out. So admittedly, it's really hard to buy on these type of pullbacks because you're not sure if, hey, this was a fake out and now we're going to start heading back. But that's an aggressive area, and if you believe, hey, that was the bottom, that's a great support pullback to look at. So in that case, it would have been that 2400, and you know, you saw it bounce around here for a little bit and it's just started to hold, and the longer it does that, that's a pretty good signal that the low is probably going to hold there. And if you wanted to be conservative, you could wait for it to kind of start heading back up and clear that, and you can say retrospectively that 2400 area was the support level. And so you could buy when it starts to move up here. In this case, this would have been your signal of this big candle with the volume coming in, which also happened to be where it cleared this near-term resistance that it was kind of forming a little channel in there. It was just trading in this range, the low end being 2400, the high end being 2600. So on this candle would have been a good signal to start edging back in. So buying to prior resistance points is another way to do it, especially when you have something moving into all-time highs and it just pulls back. Look back at the chart is real easy to just find what was that prior peak, and more often than not, that is the level that tends to hold. And so I like to buy on that pullback and then also on the moving average. So here's another recent example. This is NEM, again, been running super strong. So if you remember, following the fork day there, it just had this huge rally. And that took it up, what is that, you know, about 55% or so. And so at that point, you're looking for to pause, to pull back. And so here in this case, I was watching NEM as it pulled back to this moving average, and notice it hit this longer 50 moving average on this chart, and that's right where it paused. And so at this point, I'm watching it really closely, seeing if it's going to start to reverse. And it has this nice little rounding bottom, and this candle here is kind of your signal, this big move off the moving average, and it looks like it's starting to resume the uptrend. So the key to watch is it going to break out above this prior high? Now this was a lower or a higher low, so you would expect that it would. So I don't wait until it breaks above that old high to get in. I'll look for a signal, something like this. And if you want to take a two-part entry into this, what I'll typically do is I'll buy part of my position here, and if I want to be conservative, I'll wait for it to break above this part and then add the final position at that point. And so there's a couple of ways to do it. Everyone's comfortable with a different way. I know some folks that will not buy on strength or breakouts, and they would prefer to buy on a pullback and kind of get that extra value, and that's fine. You just have to know what your own style is. And then there's other folks that don't like to buy on these pullbacks and would rather buy when there's confirmation that it breaks above the high. So a couple of ways to do it. I do a little bit of both. It just depends, right? If something's super strong, like in the case of NEM, it was just really strong, really rallying, I'm looking for that pullback to get in, right? If something's had a big run or a big breakout, maybe I just prefer it for a new base to form and then watch for a breakout above that next base. And so that's just a couple of ways to do it. It just depends on, you know, how early on in the move it is, if it's all-time highs, if it's coming off the lows. So there's just a number of ways to do it. But in summary, you can either buy on strength, so look for the breakout, look for a clean base, and then buy when you see those volume signals coming in, or you see a divergence on RSI or MACD line, and then buy on pullbacks. So if you miss a breakout or if you see something super strong, look for another pullback to either a prior resistance, which is now support, or look for a pullback to some key moving averages. And then one I didn't cover actually is the Fibonacci ratios, and that's one that I like to use a lot too. So let's see what this one did. I haven't even looked at it, but you can look for a pullback to a key ratio at that point as well. So in this case, look at what it did here. So the 61.8% is a very popular Fibonacci retracement level, and you can see in this particular pullback that's exactly where it came down to. So it might be hard to see on this chart, but this here just correlates with this 61.8 level, and so that's just further confirmation that that's the pullback. The moving average is holding, hitting a key Fibonacci level. So you don't necessarily need to buy at that point. If you do, you could just set a stop here, and I know a lot of people say that's the bottom, let's put a stop and buy right here. Or if you want to wait for a confirmation, you can buy when it starts to break above these shorter term moving averages or gets above this level here. And that's my preference, but that's another nice way to do it is look at the Fibonacci retracement levels. And the two levels that I like to look at is the 38.2 and the 61.8. So that's it as far as just kind of my thoughts on buying and selling. Let's take a look at a couple of charts. I know we've been seeing some breakouts, some pullbacks. People are asking, when can I get in? Let's look at NEO. Now NEO's gonna be tough here because they just changed their symbol, and it's really messing up the charts because it's breaking them up into two sections, right? The ant shares history, and then the NEO, which it's kind of making the technical analysis a little bit challenging. So this is the 1 hour on NEO, which just switched over basically about a day ago, and so you can see it had this huge run. Again, you see this big candle pulling back. I was hoping for more of a pullback personally, but this one's just super strong. So we'll see if it looks like it may be done pulling back here. The level on the downside was kind of this area that I was looking at. So if it breaks above this area here, that may signal that the pullback was done right here. Again, there's not a lot in terms of moving averages because there's not a lot of history. Let's look at the ant shares charts, and again, that's going to be short of that history there. So you can see we only have up until that point. If we go to the dailies, yeah, we're missing that whole section there. Let's hop over to coin market cap. So the old high on this chart, and I know it's not a perfect chart, but the old high on this chart is I think it was 0.0045, 0.0046 basically. And let's see where we're at now in terms of the pullback. Let's go back to the NEO. So we haven't pulled back quite to that level. The lowest we've seen right now is big support came in right around 0.05 basically. So that might be the level to watch. Again, this one's a little bit tough just because we've had such a big run since that little breakout we had. Longer term, I'm still bullish. I think this is gonna see higher, but near term, at this point, it's a little extended. Best case, I'd like for it to just kind of base out here and form a new flag pattern and build some support levels and then launch from there. So we could see another leg down to that old high, then pop back up from there. If you see a little breakout above this, that might be the signal that maybe the pullback was done. Then who knows, we'll see the test here at the most recent high. Not a whole lot I can do with this chart, unfortunately. So let's take a look at waves. So let me zoom out a little bit. So waves had a nice double bottom that it was putting in here, and I pointed out the little breakout zone right around here, broke out yesterday, and just kind of riding up this 10 EMA on the 4-hour chart. So very nice volume came in, moving up. So you're going to want to see it hold this 10 EMA, kind of flatten out, and then stair step its way up. If we look back at what the resistance levels are on this, it's kind of in this middle zone. It's kind of correlating with this level here. So, you know, the big resistance was right here at that prior level. So that's the area to be watching near term, is this 0.018 Satoshi level on Waves. But Waves is looking nice. Waves is looking pretty strong here. I'm liking it off of this breakout. So we'll see if we can get above this next level. Let's take a look at Stratis. So some of you guys have been pointing out Stratis here. You know, and Stratis admittedly has been a tough one. You know, it's had these big rallies and then these sharp pullbacks. And it's been a tough one to trade and to hold. But looking at the broader picture, right, the bigger term chart here, if you look at this longer term support that turned a resistance level, that's the area that I'm really watching in terms of a clean breakout, right? So we had this area that was just really solid support, then we broke it and just kind of became a wall, and then it failed at that point. We rallied right up to that a couple weeks back, and then we had a pullback, and now we're forming this kind of ascending pattern here where it's starting to test this again. Now near term, it's starting to bounce off these moving averages, which is very positive. But the area that I'm really interested in is, can it get above this old resistance level here? So it's a little bit of a zone that it's really forming a resistance level at, and that's really the area that I'm going to be watching in terms of, is it going to be a good breakout? Are we going to get above that? So that little area there is what you want to watch. If we can see Stratis get above that, that's going to be a very bullish sign for Stratis. But you know, in the meantime, it's kind of forming this little pattern, this nice little upper trend here. So that's good. You know, on the downside, you're not going to want to see it take out these higher lows that it's been forming, which is a pretty good little trend there. And you know, it's kind of wedging up right into this resistance and support area. So a big move could be imminent to the up or the downside, but right now this is pointing like it wants to go higher. And so keep an eye on this one. Again, the levels to watch are, you know, 0.0245 to 0.0026 is really the area to be watching. On a percentage basis, that's, you know, the breakout's still about 13% above, right? So, you know, if you want to take an early entry off this bounce here, just keep your tights, your stops tight is where I'd be doing it, right? Right below this recent trend is, I wouldn't let it get below that too much here. So let's take a look at Ethereum. Let's look at Ethereum and Litecoin here, because those are some of the big three, as I like to call them, and they're, you know, they're doing okay. They've had a pretty decent move here. So Ethereum finally broke out above this resistance area here, and so that's a positive move there above that 240. That was the area that I was really watching, because I wasn't sure if it was going to stall out there. That had been a big wall prior, so we're moving up above that. Volume came in, so that was a good sign. Next level up is this 270, which we're right at right now. So far, Ethereum's looking pretty good. I mean, it's having a nice move up. You know, if you compare it to Bitcoin, you know, it's not quite outperforming yet. You know, it has its days, but it's holding up pretty well. So no complaints about Ethereum, moving nice, you know, and it looks like it's finally starting to get a little influx here. But, you know, I think Ethereum's going to have just a lot of hurdles to continue to climb, right? There's just these multiple levels of resistance that, you know, since the peak, it just kind of broke down, had these support levels that failed and rallies right into them. And so I think it's going to be a little challenging to overcome that. Let's go to the daily charts here. On the daily, looking pretty good, you know, moving above the longer term averages. The shorter term moving averages are starting to finally turn up here. So no complaints there. I would like to see a little bit more volume coming in, but not bad. Again, we're kind of at the next level up here. This 280 area is going to be, see if we can get above that. If we can get back into 300s though, that'll be real nice here. So no complaints on Ethereum. So Litecoin, I'm going to show you the BTC chart. So remember I pointed out that, you know, after this little double top we had, Litecoin would probably start on underperforming Bitcoin, and you know, it's kind of what it's been doing. It's bouncing right into this shorter term moving average, and it hits that and just pulls it back, has another bounce, pulls back. And so it's been underperforming Bitcoin. Now if you look at it on the dollar basis, you know, it's not bad. It's kind of holding up pretty good, but that's a lot of that is Bitcoin moving everything up. And so, you know, it's not a bad chart. The point I'm trying to make is, if you had to pick between the two, you would have been better off being in Bitcoin versus Litecoin. If you have both, then great, right? But you know, just kind of looking at that, having a little bit of trouble getting above this 47 area. We're right there. You know, if you zoom in a little bit on this chart, I mean, this is flagging out nicely here the last couple days. Let me show you the 2-hour charts. But you know, the moving averages are catching up here, so you're not going to want to see it get below this level on the dollar basis near term. And I'm going to look for it to see if we can get above that $47 mark. But again, versus Bitcoin, you know, this is when I see this chart, until I see this start to reverse, I'm going to be underweighted on Litecoin, just because there's other things that are performing better than Litecoin. Not that I have anything against Litecoin, and I think longer term it's great, but it's just at the moment, other things are just performing better than Litecoin. And so, you know, I'm just trying to maximize my return, so that's why I'm going to be focused on some of the other ones for now. So outside of Litecoin and the big three, what else am I liking here right now? I still like NEO. I'm looking for a pullback there. I was hoping for more of a pullback to add to my position. What else? Let me see. OMG, we already talked on Omise Go. I'm liking this one as far as the technicals here are really constructive. You can see this big rally it had. The pullback has been very constructive, lighter volume coming in. Let's show the 4-hour chart. And it looks like it's holding these moving averages and just now starting to edge out here. So I'm liking this one. Already talked waves, talked Stratis. Let me see. IOTA is another one that I was looking at here. How's this one doing? Super strong here. Had a nice pullback. Volume's coming in. A little bit of sell volume here in the near term. So if we can get above this recent high, that's going to be bullish there. So I'm liking IOTA here, but keep an eye on that. So if it starts to break down below this recent low of the last day or so, then probably going to have some more pullback on that one. Let me go to coin market cap. What else? EOS. Let's look at EOS. That was one I was talking about and just kind of hasn't been doing anything. EOS has been pretty weak here. So the thing to note on EOS is, once Bitcoin started to rally here, it broke down below these recent lows, and that was kind of my signal to step aside on EOS here. It was, you know, it was setting up this nice trading channel, this nice base, and I was looking for a breakout, and the chart was really tightening up there, and just had this breakdown below the recent support levels. Let me straighten that line out for you guys here. So you can see it broke down below that support level and pretty much has just been selling off versus Bitcoin there, underperforming. If you look at the EOS dollar chart, not as bad just because the price of Bitcoin's going up. So it's still pretty tight here, but just certainly underperforming Bitcoin. At this point, I'm just still watching it, you know, kind of waiting to see if it breaks out. The pattern's just really tight here, so I would expect, you know, one way or the other to start really moving here, but nothing to do on EOS. So that's going to be it for today, guys. I do want to let you know, for those of you that have taken the course, I have sent out an email alerting you with some information on the upcoming live stream webinar that we're going to be doing for the course students. So anybody who purchased that basically through yesterday, I sent that email out. So look out for that. I'll send a couple more between now and then, but there's going to be 2 of them just to kind of help with time zones. The first one is going to be this Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time zone. That's 9 p.m. Eastern. And then the second one will be the following morning, Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific. So 10 a.m. Eastern time zone. And so kind of just adjust from there. So I'll send out the information, the link where you can access that. So look out for that if you haven't seen that. Till next time, take care, guys.